most people, a majority of people, fuck up their relationship from the get-go is that when you come into a relationship, especially if you are used to being in your protective mode, which most of us are, which means you're really rigid in your ways, your thinking, your routine, all the things.
You got it figured out.
You've got it all figured out, and you feel good to a degree because you're taking care of yourself. And then you meet your person. Like we always say, you meet this soulmate type person, and there's the part of you that's like, oh fuck, this is it, this is the person. And where you fuck up is realizing that you're gonna have to change a little bit. You're gonna have to shift. And so many of us are stuck now in this new perception of ourselves that we've created in our protective zone. That's like, no, like I'm not open to new ways of thinking. I'm not open to new ways of being, or I don't want to change my routine. I don't want to change my schedule, whatever it is, right? But it's all protection. And you get stuck there because you feel like you're going to lose yourself by having to change or compromise. But really, that self that you're holding on to isn't even the real you, right? Like, I feel like we both talk about that all the time. Like, we were in our little protective bubble, and now don't you feel the most you've ever been? The most, like, free to be yourself? And
yeah, I mean, I don't have any, I think that's part of the value of this relationship is that I get to be myself.
Right.
And I'm hoping you get to feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the most, all the things of myself, but, you know, in the beginning, again, we both had that struggle at first, was like,
oh yeah, that's the,
especially men, right? Men are always craving towards feeling free. And there's the part of you that's like, fuck, like if I have to change my ways of being, if I have to do things the way you do, compromise, again, I have to listen to your opinion. And I don't necessarily mean that that sounds rude to say, but, you know, again, if you're really concentrated on your views, like, this is how we should eat, this is how we should save money, like certain things like that, you know, if you're not open to seeing something else, it feels like someone's taking away my freedom. Like, you're going to tell me I can't do my thing. And again, that's the selfish shutdown, but it's to keep you protected. The second you become open to like, well, maybe I could see it differently, again, your freedom comes out to like, whoa, maybe I actually didn't even think the way I was thinking, or wow, that's a new way to, right? Like, there's so much comes out of it.
Yeah. I think people struggle with, you think you're always right. When you're by yourself, it's really easy. Like, it's easy to come home to yourself.
Because you are right to yourself. Right?
Yeah, I mean, who's going to challenge
Everything's
yourself?
your way, right?
Who's ever going to challenge what you're thinking in your mind, right? You just, unless you're really conscious and you're really questioning, you know, what's going on up there. But it's not difficult to manage yourself. People who can't manage themselves, you know, that's another topic. But when you get into a relationship and you are so, I mean, that's why people typically go into relationships and they're like on this high, like, oh, I've been working out, I've been reading, I'm doing great at my job, because yeah, you've had zero to focus on but yourself. It should be that you're crushing it.
And it feels good in the beginning, but again, when you find your person, it's the person that's going to challenge you to question everything. And I think so many people now, you know, again, like I said in the beginning, you fuck up your chance at this relationship to experience love, to experience yourself, because you're so caught in that rigid way. And, you know, you get to that crossroad, like you have the honeymoon phase, everything's great. And then it's all of a sudden, okay, are you going to lean in further? And that's going to feel scary. I mean, you have a body sensation feeling of death, because it is like, am I going to lose myself? And the answer is yes, you are going to lose that version of yourself. But the new version of yourself is bigger, better, more expansive. But so many people want to run away from that. And I think we talk about this all the time, especially like we want to pump up women to be independent. We don't need a man. We need this and that. And, you know, men same, like, I'm on my own. I could do it my way, blah, blah, blah. But what you don't get is like the more you're trying to claim that like independence, I'm just going to be me and do it my way. That is really just full protection. That is really just you being scared of what else is out there. And then we claim it's, you know, for ourselves. I'm taking care of myself. There's so much.
Well, what a great excuse, right? You always have an excuse. You always have that, well, he just wasn't for me, or she just wasn't for me because I don't get to vacuum at this time of the day like I normally do because he watches whatever.
Yeah.
It's the excuse to end the relationship.
Or again, because I had to move, because we had to start budgeting, and I like to spend and I don't want to do, like, there's like all these things where it's like, you're not open to the perspective. And then it also always comes down to what we say is your shared vision. If you have a shared vision and you feel that foundation is there from the get-go, again, you lean on that, like, okay, we know where we're going, we know where we want to be. Am I willing to give up on that dream because I want to be so rigid in my thinking, right? And like, am I willing to give up on that because I don't want to have to compromise and maybe do things your way sometimes? And I think in the beginning it might be a little bit like your way, my way, because you're learning about each other. But I think eventually it becomes our way, right? Like, your way shifted a bit, then my way shifted a bit, and now we eventually, because we gave it space, have our new way to do whatever the thing is too, right? And I think you have to be able to let your ego step aside. Like, let me try it your way. Cool. Now today, my way. Okay, how do we compromise?
Well, that's where...
But its ego has to go down.
That's where real respect and real love come in, where you see the other person for who they are and what they desire, and that's where you come to that common ground, right?
Right.
Today's world, where, like you said, we're taught to solely look out for ourselves. There's that agenda. There's not many people who can open themselves up to another person's perspective. It's sad. It's the way we're going, and that's why relationships are struggling. I mean, the stats are...
Well, it's also too the instant gratification, right? I want to jump into this new relationship. I want it to feel good and honeymoon phase every single day. And there's no room for us to have an argument, and there's no room for us to try to figure it out. I mean, we're not perfect. We've had times where I've had to tell you, like, you've had the moment of like, why is it like this? I'm like, well, we've only been together this long, or this has been an issue for 6 months. And if you look in the scheme of life, like 6 months is nothing, You have a really hard 6 months, and then you have an amazing next 50 years. Cool. Who cares about that 6 months? It was like that blip. But again, it's like the little hurdles in the beginning you have to be willing to move through, and you have to be open to it's going to be uncomfortable. Be open to maybe I'm giving up a little bit of who I thought I was. But again, on the other side is just so much expansion.
Yeah, I don't even think
freedom.
You don't have to give up who you think you are. It's just each person, I mean, has to come and provide into the relationship what they're supposed to do, and that's give the other person the ability to be themselves. If that person's not for you, and you know that, then what are we doing? But if you know that the person's for you,
right,
knowing that there's going to be disagreements, knowing that there's going to be challenges, I don't know, for me, our challenges are always opportunities, right? It's like, okay, I can see, I physically see Tracy now in moments when we first started dating. What her reaction would be to something now is completely different, and it's inspiring.
I physically get a piece of duct tape and I put it over my...
I'm not perfect. I have work to do on this as well, but I think we've come a long way in that matter, where it's, we can see each other where we used to fight something, or where we used to like hold on to being right. We've let go, and you better than me.
I will say I give myself credit for being better than you, but not even in a bad way. And I think this is something to realize too. And I'm just talking about that one specific thing, not all things. One of us is always going to be maybe better at something, or one of us is always going to be the one that goes first in one area. And that's the other thing with the ego that we have to be okay with too. For me, I would always get stuck in my past relationships of, well, how many times do I go first? The answer is maybe 1 million. Like, maybe I have to go first 1 million times because I'm aware of it, or I'm more capable, or whatever it is, until you go first. Like, that is something that you have to be able to do. It's like when the Brene Brown had the thing of like, you can't always be 50-50 in relationships. So sometimes one partner has to say, what do you have today? And it's like, I have 10. And the other partner has to be willing to say, okay, today I have 90. Like, how are we going to get to our 100? And again, in all situations, different areas of life, each one of you is going to have a strong suit, or maybe it's just the day. I'm feeling really emotional and pissy today, and you're not, and you're feeling in a really good positive mood. So you're going to lead the way in whatever. And we have to be open to that and be okay to, again, not instant gratification. I may have to, in this one area, keep going forward, keep being the leader in it without you being the leader in it until you are. And that is okay. And there's going to be something else that you're going first at, same. But it's, really that dance, like you said, of right and wrong, and seeing that ego is always just for your protection. I think that's another world we live in right now. It's great. Like, The ego is the independent